Welcome, wonderful viewers. I'm truly grateful for each of you joining me this morning. Thank you for coming back to this channel, for staying with me on this journey of growth, spiritual insights, and transformation. Your commitment means the world to me, and I don't take it for granted. Each of you is a part of this community, and together, we are walking toward a life of deeper wisdom, connection, and understanding. Today, we are diving into a blend of history, symbolism, and application that I believe holds profound truths for our lives. We'll be looking at two rich passages, Acts 7 and Exodus 26 to 28. Although these scriptures may seem distant from our modern-day lives, their principles and insights are very much relevant. In these chapters, we'll find lessons about dedication, preparation, worship, and even resilience, all themes that we can apply to order. Let's start with Acts 7. This chapter contains the powerful speech of Stephen, a man of wisdom and the first martyr for his faith. Stephen was brought before the Sanhedrin, the council of religious leaders, accused of blasphemy. Despite the threat of death, he stood firm and spoke boldly. His speech wasn't just a defense, it was a declaration of faith and a reminder of God's faithfulness throughout history. In this passage, Stephen recounts the history of Israel, from Abraham's calling to Moses' deliverance of Israel from Egypt. His message focused on how, again and again, God was with his people, even when they were unfaithful. This chapter teaches us several things. 1. Resilience in the face of opposition. Stephen did not let fear sway him from sharing his convictions. Today, we often face opposition or challenges in our lives, at work, in relationships, or even in our own minds. Like Stephen, we can face these obstacles with courage, trusting that our beliefs and values will guide us. 2. Faithfulness amidst adversity. Stephen was faithful to God even when faced with death. This is a powerful reminder that our faith and dedication to truth are worth standing up for, even when it's difficult. 3. Seeing the bigger picture. Stephen's speech highlighted how God had been active throughout history. Often, we get so focused on our own struggles that we forget the bigger picture. Acts 7 reminds us that God's plan is larger than our immediate troubles and that, in His timing, everything will work for a greater purpose. 4. God's presence everywhere. Stephen emphasized that God isn't confined to temples or specific places. God's presence is with us wherever we go. This is particularly comforting, as it reassures us that no matter where we find ourselves, whether in joy or hardship, God is with us. 5. Forgiveness and compassion. Finally, Stephen's last words were a prayer for forgiveness for his persecutors, reflecting Jesus' own prayer on the cross. Forgiveness and compassion are powerful practices that can free us from bitterness, helping us heal and move forward with peace in our hearts. Exodus 26 to 28, Understanding the Tabernacle and Priesthood. Moving on to Exodus 26 to 28, we encounter the detailed instructions given to Moses for constructing the tabernacle and establishing the priesthood. These chapters might feel dense, but they are filled with deep meaning, symbolism, and insights into God's character and the way He interacts with His people. In these passages, God lays out very specific instructions about the materials, measurements, and design of the tabernacle, a portable sanctuary where God would dwell among His people. He also provides details about the garments and responsibilities of the priests. Here are some key insights we can take from these chapters. 1. Attention to detail and excellence. God's instructions for the tabernacle were incredibly detailed. This teaches us that God cares about the details of our lives and that excellence matters. When we are entrusted with any task, whether big or small, it's an opportunity to reflect God's attention to detail by doing our best. 2. Preparation and dedication. The priests had specific garments and rituals to set them apart for their work in the tabernacle. This teaches us about the importance of preparing ourselves, mentally and spiritually, for our work. Before undertaking significant tasks, setting our intentions, focusing our minds, and dedicating ourselves to the task can make a huge difference. 3. Holiness and sacredness. The tabernacle represented a sacred space, and it was treated with reverence. Today, we might think about our own lives as a type of tabernacle, a place where God's Spirit can dwell. Keeping our minds, hearts, and actions pure is like maintaining that sacred space within us. 4. Symbolism and spiritual identity. The garments of the priests were symbolic, each part representing a spiritual truth. The breastplate, for example, held stones representing the 12 tribes of Israel, symbolizing that the priest carried the people's needs before God. This can remind us that we too can carry others in prayer, advocating for them and supporting them in times of need. 5. God's desire for connection. The tabernacle allowed God to be with his people, showing us that he desires connection and relationship with us. This isn't about rigid rules or rituals, it's about an invitation to draw closer to God, even in the simplest ways, through prayer, reflection, or mindfulness in daily action. You may wonder, how does all of this apply to my life in a practical way? Let's look at how these teachings from Acts 7 and Exodus 26-28 offer us tools for navigating life today. 1. Embracing resilience and faithfulness. In a world filled with stress, negativity, and challenges, it's easy to feel worn out or discouraged. But Stephen's example in Acts 7 shows us the power of resilience and faithfulness. His courage reminds us that when we face opposition or difficulties, we can stand firm, knowing that we are not alone. Even if we don't see the full outcome of our faith or efforts right away, staying dedicated to our values and purpose will ultimately bear fruit. When you face a challenging situation at work or in relationships, remember Stephen's strength. Ask yourself, how can I be resilient here? How can I stay true to my values? 2. Seeking excellence in every detail. The tabernacle's design was no small feat. Every detail mattered, and every material held meaning. This teaches us that, even in our day-to-day lives, the small things are significant. When we approach our tasks, whether it's work, caring for our families, or personal goals, with a commitment to excellence, we honor both ourselves and God. This doesn't mean we need to be perfect, but it's about doing our best with what we have. Ask yourself, what details in my life have I overlooked? How can I approach them with greater intention and care? 3. Preparing ourselves for life's demands. The priests had a dedicated preparation process before entering the tabernacle. Likewise, we can benefit from preparing ourselves, whether through meditation, prayer, or setting clear goals, before taking on big tasks. Just like athletes warm up before a game, we too can warm up spiritually, mentally, and emotionally before diving into our responsibilities. Preparing ourselves helps us to be fully present and effective in what we do. Consider creating a small ritual of preparation before starting your day. This could be a few moments of reflection, a prayer, or even a journal entry to set your intentions. 4. Remembering the power of sacred spaces. The tabernacle was a sacred space, a place set apart for connection with God. Today, we can create our own sacred spaces, a room, a corner, or even a specific time in our day where we connect with God, reflect, or find peace. Having a space like this reminds us to step back from the busyness of life, creating room for renewal and focus. If you don't already have a space or time dedicated to stillness or reflection, think about what might work best for you. It doesn't have to be elaborate, just a quiet place where you can reconnect with yourself and with God. 5. Advocating for others and practicing compassion. The priest's garments symbolized their role as mediators, representing the people before God. Similarly, we can carry others in our thoughts, prayers, and actions. When someone is going through a tough time, we can lift them up, offer support, or pray for their strength. Compassion and kindness aren't just feelings, they are actions that make a real difference. Think about someone in your life who could use some extra support. How might you reach out to them, or how can you lift them up in prayer or encouragement? 6. Building a relationship with God. Finally, both Acts 7 and Exodus show us that God desires a relationship with us. This isn't about ritual or routine, it's about genuinely connecting with the one who created us. Whether through prayer, study, reflection, or simply living with gratitude, we can nurture this relationship in a way that brings peace and purpose into our lives. As we wrap up, let's remember the heart of these passages. Acts 7 reminds us of the importance of resilience, faithfulness, and courage, even in the face of great difficulty. Stephen's life is an example that encourages us to hold fast to our values and faith, no matter the opposition. In Exodus 26-28, we see God's desire to dwell with his people, reflected in the sacred design of the tabernacle. The attention to detail, the symbolism, and the dedication of the priest all remind us of the value of preparation, excellence, and creating spaces in our lives for God. My hope for you today is that you'll feel inspired to bring these teachings into your own life. Reflect on them, think about where they resonate most with you, and consider what small actions you can take today to live them out. Thank you again for being here, for your openness, and for walking this path together with me. May you feel God's presence, strength, and guidance every step of the way.